Hey, what's up guys? Today I want to talk about the Earth Druid. Now I know I talk about the Earth Druid a lot on this channel, but that is the class that I'm maining right now, and that's the specialization I'm spending a lot of time on. In this video, I'm going to go super in depth into everything you need to know about the Earth Druid, whether that's the skills you get while you're leveling, what do you change your skills to, what does that Paragon Board look like, what gear do we want to go to, what stats, everything you need to know, all updated for you today. And let's just get right into it with the skill tree. So the best basic skill in my opinion is Storm Strike. It offers so much to you. You get 25% damage reduction for 3 seconds after dealing damage with Storm Strike. It chains to 3 surrounding enemies, and it also has a chance to immobilize and give vulnerability, which makes them take 20% increased damage. Storm Strike is by far, in my opinion, the strongest basic skill you can go with. Enhanced Storm Strike is where you get that immobilization, and then we go Storm Strike, Enhanced Storm Strike, and then Landslide. I like to make sure that I am level 4 before I even fight the first boss so that I have Landslide. Otherwise, you're just whacking away with a basic skill that doesn't do that much damage, so keep that in mind. Once you get Landslide, you're going to go back up and get Fierce Storm Strike, so that has a 50% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 20% more damage. It's a really big upgrade. From there, you want to get Enhanced Landslide and then Primal Landslide. Primal Landslide is key for this build. It says when you immobilize or stun an enemy, you gain a Terramote. Each enemy hit by Landslide consumes a Terramote, causing a guaranteed critical strike with 40% critical strike damage. Bosses always have up to a 10% chance to grant a Terramote when hit. This is a huge part of the build, and basically you can already see the synergies. Storm Strike has a chance to cause immobilization, and then Landslide will then consume those Terramotes generated by Storm Strike, giving you 40% increased critical strike damage on your next Landslide. So great synergies already. These two abilities work together great. And what's awesome is that you just unlocked the next part of the skill tree, and you can get Earthen Bulwark, and then from there, Enhanced Earthen Bulwark, so that it makes you unstoppable while it's active. Unstoppable is very, very good in Diablo 4. There's so many things that can snare, slow, stun, knock down, daze, blind, and so on your character, and Unstoppable will free your character from those things. And there are many things that make it so you can't even use a healing potion, and so getting Unstoppable, being able to remove those effects from your character and then use your healing potion or run away or attack back is all granted through Unstoppable. And Earthen Bulwark is going to be our way to get Unstoppable. Now from there, we just want to put lots of points into Landslide to increase our damage. So we're going to put 3 more points into Landslide, so it's 4 out of 5. And this unlocks the companion part of the Druid skill tree. Now, if you saw my previous video, I ended up getting Poison Creeper. I still recommend that, but I also started getting Nature's Reach. Now at this point, you only have 3 abilities on your skill bar, and now 4 with Poison Creeper. You've got Storm Strike, Landslide, Earthen Bulwark, and now Poison Creeper. Now, is it better to get 3% increased damage? Would you like a whole nother skill that you can activate for 110% damage? So this is where I deviate and I say get Wolves, because a lot of the time early on, players are going to struggle to kill bosses with this build, and Wolves is really great single target damage. And you have to play intelligently. You only want to activate your Wolves on a boss once the boss is made vulnerable by Storm Strike, so that you get that 20% increased damage when you do activate those Wolves. Because it has a 14-second cooldown, you need to make sure you time it correctly. And you can see we're around level 14. This is when you're going to start fighting the end of Act 1 boss. So you definitely want to have both Poison Creeper and Wolves on your bars so that you have a full bar and you can do as much damage as you possibly can to bosses, which are going to take a little bit more time than other monsters. Now from there, I recommend you get another point into Landslide to 5 out of 5 it. It's a killer ability. It's going to be doing such great damage. You just want to continue to make it stronger and stronger. And along with Poison Creeper, by the way, I didn't even mention, but it immobilizes all enemies, right? That's going to generate a ton of Terramotes. Poison Creeper and Landslide are just made for each other. Getting all those Terramotes from Poison Creeper is going to make it so much stronger. So many more Terramotes, so many more critical strikes. It's just absolutely incredible synergy. Now from this point, I do recommend you get Enhanced Poison Creeper and Ferocious Poison Creeper. And Enhanced Poison Creeper really doesn't do much for us because we just want the immobilization. Doesn't matter how long it lasts. Brutal Poison Creeper, we don't care about critical strike chance. We already get guaranteed critical strike chance with Terramotes, right? And so Ferocious Poison Creeper increases the active poisoning duration by 3 seconds. Now look here, it does 90% damage over 2 seconds. Making that poison damage last 3 seconds longer is giving it basically an extra 45 times times 3, like 75% additional damage. It's actually insane. You can use Poison Creeper and then just walk away. Monsters will just melt, although it will take, up to 5 seconds. It's going to do a ton of poison damage, and so Ferocious Poison Creeper is actually very good and very much worth it. Now from there, you finally unlock the Wrath part of the tree, and here we want to get Trample immediately. Trample is so strong. I know I said we're going an Earth Druid, but Trample is simply too good, and we immediately need to get Enhanced Trample. Trample deals 150% bonus damage. This bonus is reduced by 50% for each enemy hit after the first. So just make sure if you're up against a boss, use Trample first, and that's going to increase your damage significantly. Now at this point, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 skills. So our bar is finally full. We finally did it. We got everything we're looking for in terms of skills until we get to our ultimate. We also want to get, after this, we're going to finally start getting points into Nature's Reach. This is going to give us 6% damage per point. Distant enemies take 3%. Double it if they are slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. They're immobilized from Poison Creeper. They're immobilized from Storm Strike. They can be stunned from Trample. They're going to get knocked back in terrain and then become stunned, and you're going to get bonuses here. So this is 6% damage, 3 points into Nature's Reach. And the alternative that I'm basically thinking in my head, what else could I get, would be Crushing Earth. Earth skills deal 5% increased damage to slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back enemies. So it's very close. Are we getting Nature's Reach or are we getting Crushing Earth? But I think Nature's Reach, since it's 6%, is better versus 5%. But of course, that's what we're going to get next, since it's basically just as powerful. We want to get Crushing Earth. So we're going to put 1 point into Crushing Earth, and then I'm going to put a 2nd point into Crushing Earth to unlock Petrify. Once we get Petrify, we can put a 3rd point into Crushing Earth, and we also want to take out a point in Wolves so that we can actually use Petrify. Now, Petrify is actually a pretty good ability. It increases your critical strike damage by 25% to enemies affected by Petrify, and then against bosses, the critical strike damage bonus is increased to 50%, and its duration is increased to 7.5 seconds. Now, guys, in some of this gameplay clips, you're going to see I basically trample the boss, cast Petrify, and they're dead. It's basically that fast. They just die incredibly fast from Landslide's critical strike damage. With Petrify, it's amazing. It's extremely powerful. And then from there, we want to get Safeguard. We want to start building Fortify. We're going to get Natural Trample, so it gives 20% of our base life as Fortify. And we're going to get Preserving Earth and Bulwark. 18% of our base life is Fortify. And the reason we're doing this is because there is an aspect that's going to give us increased damage based on how much Fortify we have. And I'm going to do an entire section on the aspects in the next section. We're also going to want to get Stone Guard. When you have Fortify over 50% of your maximum life, your Earth skills deal 4% increased damage. So this is really good because we're going to be building Fortify, and we're definitely going to have Fortify over 50% of our max life, and we want 4% increased damage all the time. Now, another amazing bunch of skills is Defiance. Nature Magic skills deal 4% increased damage to elites. We want to get this. But more importantly, we want to start getting Natural Disaster, which is going to give our Earth skills 4% increase to vulnerable enemies, which we will get through Storm Strike. And then finally, Resonance. Nature Magic skills deal 2% increased damage. Triple this bonus if an Earth skill is the next skill cast after a Storm skill, or a Storm skill is the next skill cast after an Earth skill. So Nature Magic is going to do 2 times 3 is 6% more damage per point because we're weaving. That's why this build sort of takes some skill. You basically use Storm Strike, and then you use Landslide, and then you use Storm Strike, and then you use Landslide. And so you're weaving your abilities in order to increase these percentages. So this is 6%, 12%, 18% increased damage. So Resonance is something we want to get as soon as possible. It's really one of the most powerful talents or passive skills you can get for this build. And finally, at level 34, we can get either Nature's Fury or Earth and Might. And I know some people even want to get Ursine Strength. Now, guys, I have tested all 3 of these, and I can tell you that in my opinion, you want Earth and Might. And the reason I say that is because it has a chance to restore all of your spirit. And this is a really big deal. And by the way, that the 5% chance is increased by critical strikes, 10%, and 10% if the target is stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. And so you're immobilizing targets, you're stunning targets, you're knocking them back with Trample. Earth and Might actually procs a lot. It really does. And because of that, it's giving you so much more sustain. Everyone complains, the Druid can't generate spirit. Well, this is how the Druid can generate spirit. Earth and Might. It's an amazing feeling. Your character glows. You get all of your spirit back. It's incredible. Earth and Might is definitely the way to go. I think, as you continue to level your character, restoring all of your spirit, I think is more and more meaningful, especially because your spirit's going to increase over time, depending on your Paragon boards, your gear, all sorts of things like that. So Earth and Might, I think, is really the best. And then from there, we're really just going to be improving the current things we have. So natural disaster is going to give us 4% damage per point. This is going to give us 4% damage per point. So they're about equal, natural disaster and stone guard. We're also going to want to max out safeguard so that really we're getting tons of fortify from our earth skills. And then from there, we also do want to get Prime Petrify and Supreme Petrify. This is going to help even more with generating spirit because killing an enemy affected by Petrify grants 25 spirit. So the way I look at it is, you know, let's say you're kind of low on spirit. Well, you can absolutely just cast Petrify and then landslide down all those targets. And that's actually going to probably leave you with more spirit than you entered that with. So really, really great there. And then we're going to max out some of our abilities. So Landslide's already maxed out. You're definitely going to want to max out Trample next. Trample is extremely powerful. This is really another like boss killing ability. Just make sure you hit the boss first. It does 150% bonus damage. This was buffed during like the server slam weekend, and I still just can't believe how good it is. The ability to just slam into a boss and deal a ton of trample damage. And we can even make this an earth skill, which makes it really, really crazy. We're also going to want to max out Poison Creeper. This is an extremely powerful ability. Again, the poison damage just really adds up. You're going to be surprised by how much damage it does. I think it's extremely powerful. And then we're also going to put more points into Defiance. And then we also want to put points into Heart of the Wild and Wild Impulses. This is going to make our core skills cost 9% more spirit, but deal 15% more damage, which is really, really nice. And then with 2 points left, Circle of Life is actually really, really good for sustain. Nature magic skills that consume spirit heal you for 1% of your life. I actually really like this. I've noticed as an earth druid that, you know, you kind of don't have a lot of like sustain. Obviously you have a ton of fortify, you're very tanky, but there's really nothing that like self heals. And so Circle of Life is actually really great in order to get, you know, percentage of your max life back. I think it's very, very helpful. You can even put 2 points into that for 2% of your max life. And so this is what the build sort of looks like. And, you know, this is way down the road because getting all of these skill points requires you to get renown. Your build's probably going to change before you even fill this entire skill tree out because there's a lot of aspects that we're going to get into in this next section, which change the build entirely. And I'm going to show you how the skill tree will look once you change your build around because of these aspects. All right, let's talk about aspects. Now, I actually think it'll probably be more helpful if I show you exactly where these aspects are. So I'm going to open up an interactive map. So this is Fractured Peaks. Everything in Fractured Peaks basically is not for the Earth Druid, and I've got it filtered to just look at the Druid aspects. So all of these are basically for, I would say, Shapeshifter. We've got Unsatiated, Stormclaw, Mangled, Night Howlers. Literally, Fractured Peaks is for the Shapeshifter Druid. If we go over to Skazglen, you can see it's actually mostly for the Earth Druid with a little bit of Storm. So right here is Crashstone Aspect. And what I didn't know when I made the first deep dive is that in order to get Crashstone Aspect, you actually have to complete Act 2. You actually have to beat the final boss, and no spoilers here, I won't say anything, but just know that you can't get this until you finish Skazglen, essentially. So this is not the aspect you'd get first. When I played the game, the first aspect I actually got was Ballistic Aspect, and Ballistic Aspect is very good, and I can add it right here. You're going to get plus ranks to your skills if you have Fortify. It says here, when you fortify, your earth skills gain +2 ranks, unlocked by completing Whispering Pines in Skazglen. So it's all the way over here. So if you're traveling north from Fractured Peaks, you can definitely go get this aspect on your way over to Tur Duldra, where you're going to go for your Druid quest and for continuing the campaign. And that's basically the only aspect you can get actually in Skazglen without sort of having to do a prerequisite. For example, Crashstone aspect, you do the campaign. And for Aspect of Quicksand from Farrell's Den, you have to actually clear Mordain Lodge, which is a stronghold. So it's kind of blocked. In order to get this aspect, you have to do a stronghold, and then you have to do the dungeon, right? Which, by the way, you can absolutely do. So after you're done with Ballistic Aspect, you could absolutely go and get Aspect of Quicksand. And Aspect of Quicksand is very, very important for this build. Damage from Earth skills slow enemies hit by 25 to 50% for 5 seconds. And the reason this is so important is because we have a lot of stuff that gets bonus if they are slowed. For example, we have Crushing Earth. Earth skills deal 15% increased damage to slowed enemies. So that's a really big bonus right there. And I believe here you go. Storm skills deal increased damage to stunned, immobilized, and knocked back enemies. So your Storm Strike gets stronger if an enemy is stunned, immobilized, or knocked back as well. And so this is Crushing Earth is just one example. There is another one. Here it is. Nature's Reach. This is 9 times 2, 18% bonus damage if they are slowed. And so Aspect of Quicksand is very, very good for increasing our damage. We want enemies to be slowed. So we got Ballistic Aspect, we got Aspect of Quicksand, and then let's, from there, honestly, just complete the campaign and then finally do Crash Stone. So in my opinion, the order of aspects would be Ballistic, Quicksand, and then Crash Stone. And Crash Stone is really, really strong. You can put this wherever you want. Probably not the weapon, because you're going to be replacing your weapon, upgrading it, etc. Earth skills deal 30 to 40% more critical strike damage to crowd-controlled enemies. Crowd-controlled includes slowed, so it's perfect synergy with Aspect of Quicksand. And it says here, progress campaign in Scot's Glen to unlock. So you'll get this after you complete Act 2. Now from there, we're going to head to Dry Steppes. We've got a few options here. We've got Aspect of Retaliation. This one's very good. It's very close kind of as you head south here, so I do recommend you get this one. Aspect of Retaliation is fantastic. What it does is it makes it so that your core skills deal up to 20% increased damage based on your amount of Fortify. And remember that you're always going to get the lowest roll when you get these dungeon aspects added to your Codex of Power and then imprint them onto a weapon. So up to 20% additional damage based on your amount of Fortify. Very, very good. Unlocked by completing Seaside Descent and Dry Steppes. Now from there you can head east, southeast actually, and get Aspect of Mending Stone. Now Aspect of Mending Stone is one of my absolute favorites. You can put this in your helm. What it does is it increases the duration of Earthen Bulwark by 6 seconds. Now by default, Earthen Bulwark only lasts for 3 seconds. Okay, so this is literally like doubling, tripling the duration, right? It goes from 3 seconds to 9 seconds. This aspect triples the duration, and it says in addition, killing an enemy with earth skills replenishes X of your active Earthen Bulwark's barrier. So it's going to make it last longer, stronger, and by the way, you're unstoppable while you have this aspect on. So you're basically becoming unstoppable for 3 times longer. This is great for survivability in multiple ways. So this is one of my absolute favorite aspects. You should totally pick it up. Aspect of Mending Stone. It says here, unlocked by completing Sealed, Archives, and Dry Steppes. Highly recommend that one. And from there, that's actually all the ones you can get from Dry Steppes. We got Retaliation and Mending Stone. The campaign will eventually lead you down to Kyrgyzstan, and Kyrgyzstan has one aspect, I believe, that we could get, which could be Aspect of the Changeling's Debt. The reason I like this one is it makes it so that you can deal damage with a Werebear skill to a poisoned enemy, and that poison damage is done instantly. I personally did not pick it up, but if you are interested in that, you can absolutely get that one. For some reason, it's not showing up here, but Aspect of Might is absolutely, oh, you know what? It's because it's a generic. Here, let me change the filter here. Aspect. I was like, where's Aspect of Might? It's absolutely needed. I guess it's in Dry Steppes. Aspect of the Umbral is actually one you definitely want to get as well. Aspect of the Umbral is very key to this build. You have to put it into your ring though, because it's a resource. Restore one of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. This is another way that we keep our resource up because our earth skills are going to slow enemies hit, and then we're going to immediately get that resource back. And then Aspect of Might should be here. Here it is. It's actually right next to Aspect of Retaliation. We have Aspect of Might. This one's really strong. I'm going to put Might right here. Might. Basic skills grant 20% damage reduction for 2 seconds, unlocked by completing Dark Ravine and Dry Steppes. So this is super helpful. 20% damage reduction is a ton. And so basically every time you cast Storm Strike, you get 25 plus 20, 45% damage reduction. Absolutely amazing damage reduction. Highly recommended. It's just so powerful. So Aspect of Might with Storm Strike is absolutely amazing. So we almost have most of our aspects now. We're going to continue on. If we go over east, the next one we get is actually super far away. It's all the way on the east coast, which is called Aspect of the Ursine Horror. Now we're going to have to put this into an offensive slot, so weapon it is. What it says is that Pulverize is now also an earth skill. After casting Pulverize, Tectonic Spikes continue to deal X damage over 2 seconds, unlocked by completing Belfry, Zakara, and Hauzar. This is where Pulverize becomes a key part of the build. It's where you start using it as your AoE skill. Now previously, when we look at the skill tree, whenever we ran into big groups of monsters, you probably, like me, would use Poison Creeper for big AoE damage, maybe follow up with a Trample to hit as many of them as you can, right? right, for big AoE, because Landslide doesn't have the best AoE. It's got a little bit of an AoE, but it's not amazing, right? But Poison Creeper in conjunction with Trample could really clean things up. However, once you get Aspect of the Ursine Horror, Pulverize is now an Earth skill, and it's actually really good AoE, and you're not actually losing anything, right? This generates Terramotes, right? Well, if we take a look at Pulverize, it says right here, Raging Pulverize, enemies overpowered by Pulverize are stunned for 2 seconds. And if we look at Primal Landslide, it says when you immobilize or stun. And so it says here, you overpower with Pulverize every 12 seconds. So every 12 seconds, your Pulverize is going to overpower and generate Terramotes on everyone you hit. Every 20 seconds is when you'd use Poison Creeper and immobilize everyone. So you almost get twice as many Terramotes by using Pulverize than as you get from Poison Creeper. Now I will admit that Pulverize does less damage than Poison Creeper, but it's instantaneous. It also overpowers, which then will do more damage, and it also generates almost twice as many Terramotes. And so this is where I replace Poison Creeper with Pulverize, and you still keep Landslide because Landslide does really, really good single target damage. And so you'd still do something like Storm Strike and then Pulverize, Storm Strike, and then Landslide depending on your situation because of resonance. So you still want to weave, and it's really great that Pulverize is now an Earth skill as well as a Nature Magic skill, which doesn't actually tell you that in the aspect, but resonance does apply to Pulverize, which is really, really awesome. Now, we've gone through a lot of these. I believe there is one more aspect that I may be forgetting. Aspect of Retribution, but I think it is, yeah, Retribution. So Retribution would be another one. We don't really have space for it, but it says here, you deal increased damage to stunned enemies. Petrified enemies are stunned enemies. Staggered bosses are stunned enemies. It's not the best in the world, but if you want to go grab it, you can get it. It's helpful. You know, you don't have to. I didn't use it, but you could. You could absolutely use it. I think there are better options though, for sure. Okay, so those are the aspects. Pretty much all the ones you can get from the Codex of Power. Now I want to shift this aspect session to talk about what is your best in slot aspect. Now, one thing that I found to be absolutely crazy was, I think it was called Natural Balance. Yeah, aspect of Natural Balance. This is pretty crazy. Casting a Storm skill grants your Earth skills critical strike damage for 4 seconds, 30%, or if it's on a weapon, it's 60%. I found a weapon where it was 90%, which is a perfect roll. So you cast a Storm skill and you gain 90% critical strike damage. And Landslide is a guaranteed critical strike with Terramotes. Kind of crazy. I want to show some footage here where Landslide is literally just one-shotting bosses, right? It's absolutely nutty, as people like to say. It's nutty. And then casting an Earth skill increases the critical strike chance of Storm skills by 8 to 12%. So that's your Storm Strike. And it's just perfect for the build where you weave. You can't get this from a Codex of Power, but you can absolutely find it and use it. And I was using it to great effect. It was very, very powerful with Landslide. Very, very powerful. Another thing you're going to want to get, you can actually replace Aspect of Retaliation with Aspect of Trampled Earth. This is absolutely insane. Trample now summons 6 Landslide Pillars of Earth during its duration that deals 70 to 80% normal damage. Trample is now also a Nature Magic and Earth skill. So this is huge. Trample is a key part of the build for single target damage, but now it can do massive AoE damage by trampling through enemies, and each single trample summons 6 landslides. It's absolutely insane. Now, another aspect we're going to want to put into our build is Aftershock. Aspect of the Aftershock. Landslide, Earth Pillars, each strike a second time and deal an additional 6 to 12% bonus damage per hit. Aspect of the Aftershock is amazing with Landslide because Landslide is basically going to get twice as much damage, and it's already doing an absolute insane amount. And there's great synergy with Aspect of the Trampled Earth. So you cast Trample, you get 6 landslides cast, and then they cast again, so you get 12 landslides. This just clears entire rooms. It doesn't matter if they're elites. It doesn't matter if they're bosses. It just clears everything you trample through. So Trampled Earth plus Aspect of the Aftershock. And don't forget, right before you use Trample, cast Storm Strike. It's going to get 90% increased critical strike damage along with all those landslide pillars. It's absolutely insane. Just make sure you're weaving every time you do something. So Storm Strike and then Trample, Storm Strike and then Landslide, Storm Strike and then Pulverize. Just make sure you keep doing those things. Now there's 2 uniques you're going going to want to look for once you enter into World Tier 3. One of them is going to be Insatiable Fury. This is also going to change around your skill tree. Once you get it, you're going to be a Werebear permanently, and you're also going to want to look for Vasili's Prayer. What this does is it makes it so your Earth skills are now also Werebear skills and fortify you. And then here it says Werebear form is now your true form, and you gain +2 ranks to all Werebear skills. So this is huge. It basically gives you +2 ranks to all your Earth skills, and your Earth skills are now going to be like you're a bear and you're casting Earth skills. It looks really, really cool. Now, once we go to the skill tree, because we're still using Storm Strike, and by the way, I figured out that Storm Strike reverts you back into a human. You can't be a bear casting Storm Strike. You actually turn it back into a human. And so as we're weaving our abilities, we're going to be turning into a human every single time we cast Storm Strike, and then we're going to go back into a bear when we cast an Earth skill or a Werebear skill. And so what I have found to be very effective is to take 2 points out of Circle of Life, 1 point out of Defiance, and put 3 points into Quick Shift. When a shape-shifting skill transforms you into a different form, it deals 15% increased damage. And so what happens here is that you have 18% damage increase from weaving, but now you have an additional 15%, which adds up to 28% increased damage by simply weaving your spells from Storm to Earth. So that is what I found to be extremely powerful once you have Insatiable Fury. And so this is looking pretty good. This is sort of very similar to what I'm running right now currently. Yeah, this pretty much covers it. We don't have Aspect of Retribution. We have a two-hander instead. This is very strong. You're going to do very, very well with this. Very, very well. You could even replace Aspect of the Umbral if you're doing fine on resource. Pick up what we were just using, which is called Aspect of Retaliation. Have your core skills deal increased damage based on your amount of Fortify. That's really strong. So absolutely keep that. Or even Crash Stone, which says Earth skills deal 30% more critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. This is less effective towards bosses because they're never crowd controlled. So depending on what you're good against, not good against, you can switch out what aspect you're using here. Now I want to talk a little bit about weapon, armor, and jewelry. What gems are you going to put in each? Definitely, if you're running this particular build, I would say Emerald. The reason for Emerald is because you deal increased critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. They should be vulnerable if they, you shouldn't even do anything until they're vulnerable. Just keep hitting them with Storm Strike until you make them vulnerable. It's 20% increased damage, and then you get increased critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. And remember, with Terra Motes, Landslide will always critically strike. So it's basically guaranteed it's going to happen. So Emerald's very, very good here. I always do Ruby in the armor for increased maximum life. This is great for overpowers. It's great for survivability. I think maximum life is definitely the way to go because Pulverize is going to overpower. And once we get to the Spirit Boons, we're going to find ways to get even more overpowers. And then with jewelry, I actually like to go with the Skull for increased armor. Things like Insatiable Fury increase your total armor. I've seen a lot of items that are good for Earth Druid also have increasing your total armor. And so armor also gives you resistances as well. And so I think Skull is the way to go. Let's load up our skills here. I like to run Earthen Bulwark, Pulverize, Trample, Petrify, Storm Strike, and Landslide. This is very, very strong. Highly recommend this loadout. Again, like Trample is so good. You're just going to clear entire screens full of enemies. Petrify is going to help you get your spirit back, but also, if you're in a sticky situation, it's nice how it's basically like, everyone freeze, it's awesome. It's very, very good for staying alive. I mean, this build is just so tanky. Trample, by the way, gives you unstoppable. Earthen Bulwark gives you unstoppable. It's a very high survivability build. And when it comes to Spirit Boons, which you're going to unlock at level 15, you're going to want to get Wariness. 10% reduced damage from elites. Elites are champions, bosses, world bosses, and elites. And so it's a lot of different monster types that you get 10% flat reduced damage from. It's really, really good. You're also going to want to get Avian Wrath. Gain 30% critical strike damage. This is really good because Terra Motes give you guaranteed critical strikes. And so with guaranteed critical strikes, we get guaranteed increased damage with Avian Wrath. Now we're also going to want to get Pack Leader. Now you're going to want to get this before you replace Poison Creeper with Pulverize. So you're going to get these Spirit Boons sooner than you're going to get the aspect of the Ursine Horror. So you're going to start with Pack Leader, and the reason I highly recommend this is because it says lucky hit critical strikes have up to a 20% chance to reset the cooldowns of your companion skills. It's actually insane how often this procs, because you're constantly getting guaranteed critical strikes with Landslide, you're getting a ton of pack leader procs, and Poison Creeper is coming off cooldown all the time. So you're getting tons and tons of Poison Creepers. Now I know I was just saying how Pulverize is going to generate twice as many Terra Motes. Well, honestly, I think it still will. And by the way, like the poison damage, what I found is that's weak with this is that, you know, it's already going to die. Like you used Poison Creeper on the enemy, their whole health bar is poisoned, they're going to die. What benefit is there to use Poison Creeper again on that same monster that's about to die, right? Now, granted, you could save it for the next group of mobs, but I just found that it's good, but it's not optimal. And I still recommend you change over to Pulverize, even though this is a nice combo. So instead of getting Pack Leader, or I should say after you get Pack Leader and once you get Aspect of Ursian Horror, you're going to want to move away from Pack Leader and you're actually going to want to get Energize. Lucky Hit dealing damage has up to a 15% chance to restore 10 Spirit. Energize is fantastic, another tool in our toolkit to ensure that we have Spirit all the time and we are generating enough to continue using our abilities. And then finally, we're going to specialize in the Snake Spirit Boon. We're going to get Obsidian Slam. Every 20th kill will cause your next Earth skill to overpower. This was recently nerfed. It used to be every 10th kill. It was amazing. Now it's literally takes twice as long to proc, but still overpowers amazing, and I think it's fantastic. Definitely go this one. And then you also want to get Masochistic. And you only can get Masochistic once you have Vasili's Prayer. And the reason for this is because not all of your skills are shape-shifting skills until you get Vasili's Prayer. So it says here, critical strikes with shape-shifting skills heal you for 3% maximum life. If you remember, we had Circle of Life to heal us for 1% of your max life, right? But we got rid of that and we got Masochistic. Now, the reason you only want to make this switch after you get Vasili's Prayer is because Vasili's Prayer makes your Earth skills now also Werebear skills. And by becoming Werebear skills, they also become shape-shifting skills. You'd never know this by looking at the item. You know, I tested it, found that out, and it's amazing the synergy that can be found here. So Masochistic is going to benefit all of your Earth skills. That means that Landslide critical strikes, which are guaranteed, will heal you for 3% of your max life. Trample, Pulverize, of course, those are Werebear skills, so they will, of course, give you that heal. And actually, that's Landslide's the only Earth skill, actually. So Masochistic, really, really great. Going to actually give the Earth Druid a ton of sustain finally, which is really, really great to finally have some self-heals. So this is the Spirit Boon loadout I would go with. I think it's very, very solid. I think it's a great choice. Now, the final part of this is the Paragon Board. Now, I've begun to work my way through the Paragon Board, and I'm going to show you guys what I've discovered so far that's working for me very, very well. So we're going to work our way to the right with Willpower, 5% damage, and Prime, which gives 10% damage and 4% life. We're going to get 2% life, 5% damage, Willpower, Intelligence, Dexterity, Willpower, and this Glyph Socket. Now, I've unlocked a ton of glyphs by the time I got here, so I had a lot of different options, but I still think Outmatch is the absolute best starter glyph, and it's just perfect for the Earth Druid. You deal 16% increased physical damage to non-elites and bosses. It's perfect. I mean, once I got this glyph, things just died so fast. 16% increased physical damage. Pulverize does physical, Trample does physical, Landslide does physical damage. The only thing that doesn't do physical damage is Storm Strike, and that's really just there to apply vulnerability. So, and of course, get us out of bear form in order to get quick shift with our next attack and to get resonance with our next attack for that 28% increased damage. So that's why Storm Strike is part of the build. It's really 28 plus 20, which is 48% damage just by using Storm Strike. Now, in order to make this glyph work, we need to have 25 dexterity within the radius. And so what I like to do is get dexterity, 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 and then willpower, dexterity. You have to get every dexterity node in this starter area in order to activate Outmatch. And since you're pretty much, right here, I also like to get Resolve for resistance to elements, but also this grants 25% bonus to all rare nodes within range. So this 10 willpower becomes 12.5 willpower. This 4% resistance to all elements becomes 5% resistance to all elements. So it's kind of nice. to just get all the rare nodes, so that this glyph socket here, this outmatched glyph, is really doing as much work as it possibly can. You're getting the most value out of it. And then you're going to get strength, 5% damage, and impel for another 10% damage. Then from there, you can just work your way up north or upwards, 5% damage, 5 strength, 5 intelligence. And then you're going to want to get the Survival Instincts Paragon Board. Survival Instincts is perfect. I found it to give you the most damage out of any single glyph, any single Paragon board you could possibly go. It's incredible. You're going to want to work your way left after you rotate the board, and you want to make sure Spearhead is on the left-hand side. It's going to be really, really great for your build. So intelligence, willpower, intelligence, 12.5% increased damage to healthy enemies. Now, guys, at this point of the build, you're probably like, dude, I'm one-shotting everything. Exactly. And you want to continue to just one-shot everything. You hit them with Storm Strike, which does almost no damage, puts vulnerability, and then you hit them with a Landslide, and it literally just one-shots them from full health to dead. And so you want to ensure that you continue to one-shot everything. They go from healthy to dead, right? So this is 12.5% damage. This is now 25% increased damage. This is another 25, so this is 50% increased damage. We're going to pick up 50 armor, and then another 12.5% damage, which adds up to 62.5% increased damage to healthy enemies. Absolutely insane amount of bonus damage we just picked up so early on. Another 62.5% bonus damage to our abilities. It's insane. I had no problem at all taking enemies down with this. And then from here we go willpower, 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 dexterity. Now, of course, we go willpower because it's our primary stat. It increases the amount we heal. It increases the damage of our overpower, and it increases the damage of our abilities. So willpower is what we're focusing on as a druid. And then finally, we unlock Survival Instincts, which says, well, in werebear form, you deal 1% increased damage up to 50% for every 1% difference in current life percent between you and the enemy. So once let's say you're at full health and they're at 80% health, you get 20% increased damage. Let's say you're at full health and they're at 70, you get 30% increased damage against them. So if for whatever reason you didn't one-shot them, which might be the case with certain bosses, you're just going to get more and more bonus damage as you lower their health, which is great because, you know, it's just going to make the fight speed up. And once they're at 50% health, you have the max 50% increased damage, which is really, really nice because you're going to lose the 62.5% damage when they're no longer healthy. So Survival Instincts pairs really well with Spearhead and the surrounding nodes. So you get a lot of damage in the beginning, which will help you then secure that 50% damage as you get them to half health. I think they work together great. And then from there, I just worked my way up over to the right, 5% damage while in werebear form. That's perfect. We're always in werebear form with Insatiable Fury when we're not using Storm Strike. So basically when we use any other skill. And then we want to get Grizzly, another 10% damage while in bear form, another 5% damage while in bear form there, another 5% damage, and then you can absolutely pick up Dexterity and then your next glyph socket. Now, guys, I want to be honest with you. This is as far as I've gotten with the build. Now, what I would get would be the one that gives vulnerability, which would be, I think it's called Exploit. Yeah, Exploit. This is what I would go for. When an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. This cannot happen more than once every 20 seconds per enemy. This allows you to generate tons of guaranteed vulnerability, which is 20% increased damage. This is probably what I would go for. Now, this is Theorycraft. I haven't gotten this far. So I want to end here saying this is as far as I've got. I stream this every day, this build, if you want to learn more. But I would say this is an awesome build you could follow and do very, very well with it. I'm currently testing transitioning because, you know, the leveling and all that is solid. I think you can do that every single time. But the end game build, do we want to lean into Pulverize? Do we want to continue to use Landslide? I'm still testing out some different things, but I would say that right now, you know, up to here, it's solid. You can absolutely follow it. If you look at the gear and skills aspect of Natural Balance, you could replace this with Shockwave aspect, which I'm currently in the process of testing. It says here, Pulverize creates a shockwave that travels forward, dealing 60% of its damage to targets in its path. I'm seeing a lot of people just use Pulverize with this aspect. and it's working pretty well, I would say. During boss fights or monsters with a lot of health, it can be kind of lacking because Landslide is really the amazing single target damage, and Pulverize just doesn't really have that. But I'm testing that out. So guys, this is where I want to leave you. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments. Hop in my Twitch channel anytime when I'm streaming. Ask me questions about this build. I want to fully flush it out and just make it the best it can be. If you guys have any ideas for improvements, please let me know. Always open to make this build as good as it possibly can be. If you guys did enjoy this, if you could do me a huge favor, if you could just click that like button and click that subscribe button, that helps me out so much. So if you could do that, thank you so much. And again, guys, I will see you in the next video. Thank you, and take care.